The curse of the pharaohs, or the mummy's curse, is a curse alleged to be cast upon anyone who disturbs the mummy of an ancient Egyptian, especially a pharaoh. This curse, which does not differentiate between thieves and archaeologists, is claimed to cause bad luck, illness, or death. Since the mid-20th century, many authors and documentaries have argued that the curse is real, in the sense of having scientifically explicable causes such as bacteria or radiation. However, the modern origins of Egyptian mummy curse tales, their development primarily in European cultures, the shift from magic to science to explain curses, and their changing uses from condemning disturbance of the dead to entertaining horror film audiences. Curses related to tombs are extremely rare, possibly because the idea of such desecration was unthinkable and even dangerous to record in writing. The most frequently occur in private tombs of the Old Kingdom era. The tomb of Ankhefi, 9th to 10th dynasty, contains the warning, "Any ruler who shall do devil or wickedness to this coffin, may he not accept any goods he offered, and may his hire not inherit." The tomb of Khenitka Ikhinchi, 9th to 10th dynasty, contains an inscription, "As for all men who shall enter my tomb impure, there will be judgment, an end shall be made for him. I shall seize his neck like a bird. I shall cast the fear of myself into him." Curses after the Old Kingdom era are less common, though more severe, sometimes involving the ire of Tut or the destruction of Sekhmet. Zahi Hawass quotes an example of a curse. "Cursed be those who disturb the rest of a pharaoh. They that shall break the seal of this tomb shall meet death by a disease that no doctor can diagnose." In 1699, Louis Bencher wrote an account in which recorded how a Polish traveler bought two mummies in Alexandria and embarked on a sea journey with the mummies in the cargo hold. The traveler was alarmed by a recurring vision of two specters, and the stormy seas did not abate until the mummies were thrown overboard. Zahi Hawass recalled that a young archaeologist excavating at Qom Abu Bello, he had to transport several artifacts from the Greco-Roman site. His cousin died on that day. His uncle died on its first anniversary, and on the third anniversary his aunt died. Years later, when he excavated the tombs of the builders of the pyramids at Giza, he encountered the curse. "All people who enter this tomb, who will make evil against the tomb and destroy it, may the crocodile be against them in water, and the snakes against them in land." Though not superstitious, he decided not to disturb the mummies. However, he later was involved in the removal of two child mummies from Bahariya Oasis to a museum, and reported he was haunted by the children in his dreams. The phenomena did not stop until the mummy of the father was reunited with the children in the museum. He concluded that mummies should not be displayed, though it was a lesser evil than allowing the general public into the tombs. Hawass also recorded an incident of a sick young boy who loved ancient Egypt and was subject to a miracle curse in the Egyptian Museum when he looked into the eyes of the mummy king of Ankhamoun. Opening of King Tut Ankh Amoun's tomb. The belief in a curse was brought to many people's attention due to the deaths of a few members of Howard Carter's team and other prominent visitors to the tomb shortly thereafter. Carter's team opened the tomb of Tut Ankh Amoun in 1923, launching the modern era of Egyptology. The famous Egyptologist James Henry worked with Carter soon after the first opening of the tomb. He reported how Carter sent a messenger to his house. On approaching his home, the messenger thought he heard a faint, almost human cry. Upon reaching the entrance, he saw the bird cage occupied by a cobra, the symbol of the Egyptian monarchy. Carter's canary had died in its mouth, and this fueled local rumors of a curse. Arthur Wiegel, a previous Inspector General of Antiquities to the Egyptian government, reported that this was interpreted as Carter's house being broken into by the royal cobra, the same as that worn on the king's head to strike enemies. On the very day the king's tomb was being broken into, an account of the incident was reported by the New York Times on 22 December in 1922. The first of the mysterious deaths was that of Lord Carnarvon. He had been bitten by a mosquito and later slashed the bite accidentally while shaving. It became infected, and that resulted in blood poisoning. 2 weeks before Carnarvon died, Mary Corelli wrote an imaginative letter that was published in the New York World magazine, in which she quoted an obscure book that confidently asserted that dire punishment would follow any intrusion into a sealed tomb. A media frenzy followed, with reports that a curse had been found in the king's tomb. So this was untrue. The superstitious Benito Mussolini, who had once accepted an Egyptian mummy as a gift, ordered its immediate removal. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, suggested that Lord Carnarvon's death had been caused by elementals created by Tut Ankh Amoun's priests to guard the real tomb, and this further fueled the media interest. Arthur Wiegel reported that 6 weeks before Carnarvon's death, he had watched the Earl laughing and joking as he entered the king's tomb, and said to a nearby reporter, "I give him 6 weeks to live." The first autopsy carried out on the body of Tut Ankh Amoun by Dr. Derry found a healed lesion on the left cheek, but as Carnarvon had been buried 6 months previously, it was not possible to determine if the location of the wound on the king corresponded with the fatal mosquito bite on Carnarvon. The study of documents and scholarly sources led the Lancet to conclude as unlikely that Carnarvon's death had anything to do with Tut Ankh Amoun's tomb, refuting another theory that exposure to toxic fungi, mycotoxins, had contributed to his demise. The report points out that the Earl was only one of many to enter the tomb on several occasions, and that none of the others were affected. The cause of Carnarvon's death was reported as pneumonia. Pneumonia was thought to be only one of various complications arising from the progressively invasive infection that eventually resulted in multi-organ failure. According to The Lancet, and there had been a general belief that one acute attack of bronchitis could have killed him. In 1925, the anthropologist Henry Field, accompanied by Priestley, visited the tomb and recalled the kindness and friendliness of Carter, who also reported how a paperweight given to Carter's friend Sir Ross Ingram, who composed of a mammal hand and skeptical of such curses, dismissing them as Tommy Rod and commenting that the sentiment of the Egyptologist is not one of fear, but of respect and awe, entirely opposed to foolish superstitions. In May 1926, he reported in his diary a sighting of a jackal of the same type as Anubis, the guardian of the dead, for the first time in over 35 years of working in the desert, although he did not attribute this to supernatural causes. Skeptics have pointed out that many others who visited the tomb or helped to discover it lived long and healthy lives. A study showed that of the 58 people who were present when the tomb and sarcophagus were opened, only 8 died within a dozen years. All the others were still alive, including Howard Carter, who died of lymphoma in 1939 at the age of 64. The last survivor included Lady Evelyn Herbert, Lord Carnarvon's daughter, who was among the first people to enter the tomb after its discovery in November 1922, who lived for a further 57 years and died in 1980, and American archaeologists J.O. Kinnaman, who died in 1961, 39 years after the event. The tomb was opened on 29 November in 1922. George Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, a financial backer of the excavation team, who was present at the tomb's opening, died on 5 April in 1923 after a mosquito bite became infected. He died 4 months and 7 days after opening of the tomb. George J. Codd, after a visitor to the tomb, died in the French Riviera on 16 May 1923 after he developed a fever following his visit. A.C. Mace, a member of Carter's excavation team, died in 1928 from arsenic poisoning. Captain Zahon, Carter's secretary, died on 15 November 1929, died in a bed in a Mayfair club, the victim of suspected smothering. Howard Carter opened the tomb on 16 February 1923 and died well over a decade later on March 2, 1939. However, some have still attributed his death to the curse.